Good evening, everyone. Things seem to work a lot better this week, so hopefully we can keep that theme going. I hope you all had a great week since the last stream last Wednesday. Yeah, we're probably just going to get straight into it today. We are going to be looking at some kit bashing. What's going on with this? Okay, the autofocus. I think it gets a bit confused, basically because I think the microphone throws it off. But yeah, we'll be okay. We'll deal with it. Yeah, so it was the Grand Cathay went up for pre-order on Saturday, so I can talk about these guys. These were sent to me by Games Workshop, so all that disclosure stuff. Yeah, these are sent to me free. And yeah, I didn't get around to doing any videos on them, just because of timings of things. But we're going to look at them in this video. We're going to be doing some kit bashing with these guys. We're also going to be doing some 40k kit bashing as well, because whilst I do like the old worlds, whilst I do like Age of Sigmar, I think that these models are probably some of the best resources for White Scars players at the moment. If you are looking to a Horus Heresy White Scars army with the upcoming stuff, then we'll look into the kits more closely in a second. But yeah, fantastic. But yeah, I hope everyone is having a great week, and if you have any questions, as always, please do feel free to ask them in the comments. But yeah, we're going to probably just jump straight into it. So what do we have first of all? Let's look at the okay, so we have at the moment, let's just get there we go. Sorry, I'm just getting an error message from YouTube, so it should be okay. So this is the main kind of, is it the Jade Warriors? I always forget the names of the actual units. So we have yeah, Jade Warriors and Jade Lancers. So this is one of the, wow, that was loud. So this is one of the Jade Warrior sprues, and you can kind of tell that the guys who are behind the Horus Heresy stuff are the guys who are behind all of the old world stuff too, the kind of like the independent Forge World, well, it used to be independent stuff. I think it's is it just Forge World now? Let me just see what this error is. What's going on here? Okay, we'll deal with it. So yeah, so you can kind of tell that the actual the way that the kit's been laid out and the way that it's been set up is very much in the theme with the other stuff. So hopefully this is going to be any new kind of old world stuff that comes going forward. We're going to see more and more stuff like this. We have the basic sprue, and what else do we have? Let's see, we have another sprue here. So this is kind of like one big sprue that you can see here. So we have all of the command options on there with the pole axes, and then also all the infantry there. So we've got lots of cool stuff. So if you are a White Scar, like I said, all these shields are very, very good, because of the shields you can just literally clip off the hands, and they've got this really cool, interesting designs which work very well for White Scars. And yeah, you can stick them with some Space Marines. They'd work really well on vehicles, anything like that. And the infantry are going to be really good as well for doing some chapter serfs, which is what we're going to be doing in this video. Right, so what else do we have in here? We have the Jade, the Cavalry, Jade Lancers, that's it. Pretty much the same kind of thing. Shields are a little bit bigger, so if you want something a little bit more hefty shield-wise, you've got that. The spears are fantastic. Those would be absolutely perfect for any... lots of different things, to be fair. You could probably get away with using those even for salamanders, maybe. But yeah, anyway. Lots of cool stuff. We're going to be looking at those, the curved swords, even just the top knots, things like that. Amazing. So yeah, if you are a White Scars player, you'll probably find a lot of good use out of this. But today we're going to be looking at Planetary Defense Forces. So I haven't tested this already. Sometimes I like to kind of like pre-test these, but I think I'm just going to go for it today, and we're going to see, and if it comes up with any problems, we'll deal with them as and when we do. But apart from that, we're just going to crack on. But yeah, right, let me just double check that everything's working on the stream side of things before I deep dive into anything just yet. Perfect, yeah. Okay, that seems to be working okay. Wonderful. We'll carry on. Yeah, so my initial thoughts are very, very simple in terms of what we're going to be doing. Very much in the nature of... Oh, I can't get rid of this. Sorry, there's a really annoying little thing that's popping up across... Whatever. I'll just deal with that later, it's fine. So I'm going to probably use just the Cadian stuff. I'm not sure how the shoulders are going to line up, so we're going to see how we get on with those. That's going to be the biggest thing. Is always going to be whether or not the shoulders are the same width, how much cutting and adjusting we're going to need to make. But we will cross that bridge when we come to it. I should have put some new scalpel blades on for this, but we'll see. Norik Weiss, or Weiss. Good evening, everyone. Pete, what are your thoughts on the new Horus Heresy Saturnine Dread? I'm thinking it would be a wicked base for a demon engine Perturabo. Yeah, so I think I've had this kind of... I really like the Dreadnought. I think it's a really cool Dreadnought. I do like a lot of the Horus Heresy Dreadnoughts, but I do think that one's particularly good. So I've spoken about it on the stream last week, I think I did. Sorry, let me just grab the instruction booklets for this. Where did I put it? Over here. I think it'd be really good for using it as a basis for like a Grey Knight Dread Knight. That'd be pretty cool. But I also think that... Right, which torso do we want to go for? Something generic. Okay, we'll just pick one of them. So yeah, I think the Saturnine Dreadnought would be really good for Grey Knights, but yeah, I think as a basis for some sort of demon engine based Primarch definitely would work nicely as well. You wouldn't really require all that much in modification either, I think. The actual... I'm just making sure I'm picking the right torso. There we go, 28, perfect. So yeah, I don't think it's going to be a bad basis for a lot of conversions, to be fair. Based on the size, it's going to be really interesting to see what people do with it. I've just dropped it. There we go. So we're just going to pick these off the sprue first, get these at least built. I don't think the main torso is going to change all that much as part of this. I think we're going to keep things nice and straightforward in regards to the body. I think the biggest change is going to be in the head and the arms as well. Simply because most of what you're seeing on this torso is really nice. It kind of... The good thing about using historical stuff in a 40k setting is most of it is pretty much interchangeable. You've got a strap here, you've got belts, the armor as well. But yeah, really, really cool. And it's actually really great to see this finally after so long, because the amount of time that we've had to sit on the artwork for these, because I think everything got announced initially, and then it was, oh, it's going to be in Warhammer Total War 3, and then we saw them in Total War 3, and then years went by, and we finally got the miniatures for them. And I feel like these have been worked on for such a long time. But it's been good, because I think if Old World didn't do very well last year when it got released, I think we would never have seen these. I do believe that these have probably been sat ready to go for quite a long time, and then it's just the commitment on tooling and getting shelf space committed to these guys. So yeah, overall really good. Right, let's catch up on the chat. Gabazant, even everyone, this is perfect to enjoy with a nice piece of chalky cake. Sounds nice. I had a apple strudel earlier with some ice cream. It was delicious. So Knight, love your content. Have you thought about the next Xenos Primarch episode? I think Votan Volcon would fit awesomely with their no kin system left behind approach they share. So yes, it is actually... I'm not going to show it because it's going to be an early access for the patrons and channel members, but to the right of me, literally about 10 centimeters off camera here, there is the next Primarch. He's built and he's primed and he's ready to go, but he is currently on the work table. Because of the way things are lining up with what I've got planned, he's potentially going to have to get pushed back a little bit. So what I'm going to be doing instead is going to be it'll become clear in like a month's time why I'm doing it. But what I'm going to do, I've built him, I have primed him. I will be releasing the first part of the build, so the actual conversion part of the video. I'm going to be releasing that early to Patreon supporters and channel members, hopefully later this week, fingers crossed, so you guys can see it. And then I'm going to be working on a different video, and then I'll come back to the painting, and then I will release the full video at that point. So yeah, it's going to be a bit of a weird one, but it'll make sense why it's weird, and the organization is weird. But yeah, it's already picked out. He's ready. He's sat there. Duck Bacon. If only the Cathay models came out when I was planning my Woozy inspired D&D campaign. To be honest, it's always the case. There's always models that come out just when they would have been perfect, and you spent ages kit bashing and working on stuff, and you're thinking, great, that model would have been perfect. But we've got them now. That's all good. Glad this case exists. There seems to be a criminal lack of Chinese Mongolian themed kits. Bits for the White Scars. Lots of people seem to focus on the samurai stuff for them instead. Yeah, it's interesting really, because the White Scars, I think, I don't know if it's just, if you look at some of the character names and you look at some of the aspect, there's a heavy kind of Mongolian aspect with the cavalry and being bikers and things like that. So you can see that as well. But then obviously in the names of some of the characters, there's also, you've got kind of obviously Chinese inspired names, but then you also kind of have that aesthetic which is also leans into Japanese. So it's kind of this kind of weird amalgamation of lots of different East Asian cultures, which is good because it doesn't focus on any one particular thing. But then I feel like it almost lumps lots of very different cultures together into one kind of melting pot, and it loses some of those nuances a little bit, but it's fine. I think these are really great though if you want to kind of lean more heavily into like more Chinese kind of medieval aesthetic. So we're just going to build the torso up to begin with, because this will give us the basis of all of everything afterwards. We might need to come back and adjust as necessary, but that's fine. As long as I do a good enough job of gluing everything together, we should be okay. Right. Do you have arms in mind, or will they use power weapons in place of firearms? We're gonna try and get some different arms. I've got a few different choices. I've got, my initial attempt is going to be Cadian arms, just because I've got so many of them. I also have some of the Horus Heresy Solar Auxilia as well. They might work. We'll see. And then I've also got a few different units. I think I've got some of the Navy breaches in there as well. Which will be a bit weird in terms of, is that the right leg? It doesn't look right, does it? Oh no, there you go. It's just slightly more twisted. Okay, so we've got the torso. This is what we're going to be basing everything else on. Whilst that's, so the first thing we're probably going to need to do is remove these little marker points for attaching the arms. Those will probably need to be removed. So yeah, the only thing that I'm going to lose by using the Cadian arms is that they have really cool shoulder armor, and I could probably get away with maintaining it, but again, it's just going to look like Grand Cathay with guns, as opposed to it being some sort of White Scars Auxilia. So Obviously, you can cheat and just use open arms, but if we actually want to use a pair of arms like this, so the reason why I want to use these particular arms is the Krieg arms would work well, but I think I really like the cuffs on the Cadian arms. I think they would just work really nicely with the arm. It kind of has this almost retro aesthetic to it. So yeah, we'll go with those first. The head as well. You can see there is a little ball joint in there, which is quite nice to see on a new kit like this. The problem I'm going to face, I reckon, is this little kind of collar here. This is quite a high collar. If you look at the heads that come with this kit, they're quite narrow. If you can see, they haven't really done much in the way of the armor around the cheeks so that you can kind of nice and easily fit these in here. But yeah, I might keep the top knots though. I think the top knots would work really well on a Cadian helmet. I'm quite tempted to do those. But yeah. Nian, also I want to thank you for being a great inspiration for my own guard kit bashing. Well, you're very much welcome, and thank you for your compliment. Sanguinius / Magnus Kitbash. No, not yet. That is, it's Lorgar. I did mention it in the last stream, but I think it's probably people who didn't tune into the last stream. It's a Gene Sealer called Lorgar is the next one. That will be going up soon for the Patreon supporters and the channel members. Just trying to catch up on the comments here. Sorry if this has been asked or brought up already, but I was hoping this might lead to a Cathayan themed Cities of Sigmar kit bash like a Kislev one. Yeah, I mean, I would like, I probably, you know, actually, I think I might have some in the cupboard to hand. It'd be interesting to compare these guys against those, just to see if the scales match up. I don't think I've got my Kislev guy handy. I do actually. I want to check the sizes. Bear with me 1 second. So the Age of Sigmar stuff is obviously a little bit bigger, and you can kind of really see the difference in the scale here. Obviously, this is scales more to Old World. And you can really see the difference. If I match up the shoe height there is a big difference between the two. But I really like the satchel build. It's quite nice. It was quite a simple one, really. Nothing too simple. The swords for the the sword that I used here would have been actually really good to use one of these. I think some of these swords would have worked really nicely for that one. But yeah, it's definitely been scaled more to Old World than it has. Let's see if we've got. So we've got a Talon Desert Raider here. So if you look at the scaling compared to the Astra Militarum, the scale is actually really nice. I'd say they're a little bit bigger actually, if anything. Tiny little bit bigger, but again, shouldn't really matter too much. But yeah, interesting. Yeah, I feel like the Cathay stuff will be good for Guard Regiment or Venator Gang. Yes, definitely. Definitely would do. Can you do a Mexican cavalry man with the Attilan Rough Riders? There are no Mexican or Hispanic inspired Guard regiment. It's, yeah, I mean, I guess it depends on kind of where you go with that, because you can draw so much inspiration, because you can do kind of like pre-colonial and kind of post-colonial, because obviously that changed things quite a lot. So you can lean more into, obviously, the closest that we get to any kind of pre-colonial Mexico would be lizard men, because of the kind of the style that they go for there. But yeah, post-colonial, probably not much in the way of. I think there used to be. I definitely remember there being some sort of. It's obviously more inspired by those old kind of spaghetti westerns where you had the banditos who had the the ammo belts across the chest. I definitely remember seeing something. I can't remember where it was or what it was for. It was probably Necromunda, but it would be one of those. But yeah. So yeah, the space is there. That's nice and glued, so we should be okay with going for these. Now, what kind of arms? I think a set of arms at its ease would be good. I don't like these ones that have got the, kind of the rolled up sleeves. Let's go for this one just because it's there, nice and easily accessible. Like I said, this is probably going to be the biggest problem that we face, is getting these arms on. So now that I've said it, probably means that it will be the easiest part, and there'll be something I haven't considered at all, which will actually be the difficult part. Lupus Kane has smashed the like button. Thank you, I appreciate that. I hope everyone did smash the like button based on that comment. Do you plan on eventually giving some factions multiple Primarchs in the Kogorian Gambit? Is that so? Yes. So Kogorian Gambit is still the name, or yeah, I think Kogorian Gambit. I wasn't. Yeah, it's. I'm not sure if it's Chegorian or Kegor. It's CE Kegorath. Yeah, it's the god of the Harlequins, one of the Eldar gods that's kind of still alive. But yeah, still following that kind of that world, and the Gene Stealer cult Lorgar is very much an extension of that. So we will definitely have a continuation of that storyline. So that'll bring us up to 3 Primarchs so far that have part for that kind of alternate heresy. But yeah, there is. What was the rest of your question? I forgot to continue. Do you plan on delve into the more obscure Xenos of the 40k? Yeah, so I think I've done 3, and if I want to do all 18, and the idea of this is really that none of the Primarchs ended up with humans, and the whole kind of point of this kind of alternate timeline is that the point of the Primarchs ending up with Xenos factions is that they were designed to bolster those Xenos factions and almost make them the main adversary of Chaos. And each one is obviously going to be quite beneficial in the fight against Chaos. And the idea of it is it kind of balances out, creates more of a balance of power across the different Xenos factions, and the humans are a big factor of Chaos's growth as well. So if they can kind of limit, if the humans are limited in scope, then obviously the Chaos is also at the same time. But yeah, that's the idea. So it will get to a point where I'll probably run out of main Xenos factions, just because there isn't 18 Xenos factions, and I'm trying not to do any overlap. Dark Eldar and Eldar, that's fine. Maybe even like a Harlequin one, possibly, but I feel like that maybe stretched out the aesthetic a little bit too much. But yeah, there definitely will have to be some more of the obscure ones. Maybe some of the ones which are already talked about, some of the ones which we have heard about in the past but not really had much in the way of miniatures for. It would be a really good way of making some really obscure Xenos characters involved with the Primarchs. I feel like I'm very far behind on the chat. Yeah, 7:17. I'm about 7 minutes behind on the chat, so I do apologise. Funny story, while working on Kobold Minis the other day, I was reminded about how my entire Warhammer journey started after finding this channel while looking for videos about kitbashing Kobold Minis. Well, I'm glad you've come back around, because I think one of the things that I especially the video that went up on Sunday, I tried to do is, I do enjoy doing the non-Warhammer videos. Unfortunately, the way YouTube works is that it just doesn't do as well, unfortunately. But that's by the by. But yeah, I would like to do more non-Warhammer stuff, even just like Lord of the Rings stuff. So yeah, as suspected, sorry, I'm just going to go off a tangent here. The torsos are slightly wider, so you can see how that's not lining up anymore. The hand is very much off, so we're going to probably need to cut these down at least, so I'll do those first. My other problem that I suspect will happen is that the chest probably pokes out more, so this will need to be pushed in a little bit there. So hopefully we can do that. Hey, first time catching you live, Pete. How's it going? And chat. I'm doing very well. Eamon McCormick. There's a lot of M's and N's in that, that name. I couldn't quite read what it was saying straight away. Would be great to see more Kislev stuff as well. To be honest, I'm really hoping Games Workshop will get the Kislev stuff, because part of all the Cathay stuff that they teased was a load of Kislev stuff as well. So I'm kind of ready for polar bear riders personally. Question for Kitbashing. I'm wanting to try and make Space Marine zombies. What would you recommend for the head? I mean, you're kind of talking about Death Guard there, aren't you? But if you're talking about maybe a Space Marine which was formerly a loyalist and is now dead and been resurrected, I mean, you can't go wrong with Death Guard. Death Guard's very good for that. The zombies from Soulblight are likely a little bit too small for a Space Marine. So thinking of scale, yeah. Quite a difficult one, really. Quite a tricky one. I genuinely think the best option for that would be to just take some regular Space Marine heads and maybe just add a tiny little bit of green stuff to them, just to give them almost like, you don't even need much, just a tiny little bit just to make the face kind of look a little bit more sallow. Maybe it build up a cheekbone, and that'll make the, as a result, by extension, it'll make the actual cheeks look more kind of indented, make the heads look more skeletal. But yeah, the Age of Sigmar zombies will probably be a little bit too small. I'm trying to think on the top of my head if there's anything which is bigger other than Death Guard. Nothing that I can think of, unfortunately. Hey Pete, I've been working on a feudal guard army for a while now, and I wanted to turn the Caskins into heavily armoured ranger hunters. Would you have any ideas for that? Because I sure don't. I mean, the easiest solution is just go for Adeptus Arbites. Use those. Those are probably going to be the best ones to use for a feudal army, because their armour is very, very similar to like plate mail. So yeah. Base it on those. The human-sized, they come with shotguns, so you probably have to do a little bit of tweaking to make them look like they've got Hellblaster volley guns. But yeah, I think they would work quite well. What about the Interex for a more human faction for the Primarch to be raised by? The Interex, are they the ones which were... I'm going to get confused now. I've not read an awful... Were they like the ones that were in the first Horus Heresy book, weren't they? They're the ones which kind of... They were, yeah. I vaguely remember that faction. And they're very... I think they are those ones. But yeah, that would work as well. I think I would try to limit the human stuff as much as I could. I think Votan are probably okay. Votan are basically abhumans. I think I would even... It sounds... Part of me would like to do an Ogren colony, because the idea of obviously the abhumans in the 40k universe is that they are effectively worlds which got cut off from the main human populations, and because of extreme conditions on their planets, they evolved or changed in a certain way to reflect those conditions. So you have like different abhumans. Votans are very much kind of that, but to the extreme, and they made their own very distinct society, whereas a lot of the Ogrins and Ratlins and things like that, they got reabsorbed. So maybe like an Ogrin faction would be pretty fun. We'll see. Right, I'm going to get really far behind on this. I'm trying to answer as many questions as I can. I do apologize if I miss any, but I will. I will try. I'll try my best to sit them, because I'm going to end up getting really distracted and not do any kit bashing. This is quite a simple kit bash, to be fair. So if I get this done, then we can maybe have a bit more focus on the questions. But yeah, keep them coming. I'll keep glancing up. I'll keep having a look. So yeah, so you can see I've cut down the little tabs on the side just to give me the flat shoulder, and the biggest problem I'm getting now is the torso. This protrudes quite a bit. So there's a couple of options here. Now, normally I think I'm going to cut down the hand simply because it's going to be easier to do. Because the problem with cutting down the torso is if I cut away the wrong bit, then you will very clearly be able to see it. So I think what I need to do is cut down the hand, cut down the inside of the arm, and then hopefully that will fit. I might need to narrow the torso still, because I think even with this in place, this is still not going to fit properly. So yeah, not too bad. There's definitely a slightly wider torso. This is always going to be the problem with these kind of builds. Maybe even Krieg arms would work better than this, or maybe Solar Auxilia. So just trim those down a little bit, just to... Sometimes with these kind of things you don't need an awful lot, just a little bit is enough. But yeah, the inside of this arm is going to really need to get trimmed down. So I'm suspecting this is going to be catching as well. So we're going to trim down that buckle. And again, you won't see it on the main model because it's on the hidden side. And then we're going to really just trim all this down. Again, you will not see this. It'll just be hidden behind everything. Little Temple, to be honest, the armoured part isn't the most complicated bit. The problem is the Ranger, Hunter, Forest Dweller half. But thanks for the input. So, I think the problem you're going to face is combining effectively two aesthetics which almost sit opposite to each other on a... So if you think about it's a Ranger or someone who's kind of forest themed, you're looking more at someone who is going to be lighter weight. It's going to be more of a light infantry appearance, and armor doesn't really work very well in that setting because it's bulky, it's heavy to lug around. So I think if you want something more of a Ranger, then you're probably looking at something a bit lighter options. But I understand obviously if you want to do Kassakin, then they are a little bit more armored up. Where is the file? There it is. Hey Pete, could I reliably use the Cathay models as proxy for Age of Sigmar? I want to play Age of Sigmar with my friends, but also the Cathay range. Yeah, so this is quite handy to have this ready because I know I'll get these questions. So this is one of the Age of Sigmar characters. He is on a rock, so ignore that. We're going to measure it, and this is one of the Cathay characters. So there is a ever so slight height difference. That is just a problem with the scales, I think. I think this is the scale of Old World stuff versus Age of Sigmar. So in that regards, it's not too bad. By the time you've got a head in there. Yeah, by the time you've got... I'm just trying to see if I've got... Yeah, the heads aren't super tall, but by the time you've got a head, the difference won't be massive, but it will be slightly smaller. But as long as the base sizes are correct, you should be fine. Shouldn't make a difference. Hey Pete, any updates to that Raptors Estrius? If he does appear, it's going to be a long time, and it will not be anywhere. It will only be when the Foul Blade is released, if at all. Just because I was actually thinking about it the other day, and I was thinking the problem is like I think I mentioned it on the stream previously, getting all of the extra components together to be cheaper than building it. Because even if you match the price, and even though it's great to have, and even though it's actually like fantastic to have your own kind of plastic model that you've built yourself, it takes a lot of time to build those kits. So if it's only just a break even, I don't think it's necessarily worth it, even if you don't have to worry about dealing with resin. Okay, so we've narrowed down the torso a little bit, which is helping, but I don't think it's going to be quite enough yet. We're going to need to do more. So you can see how, as I press it against the chest, it's almost pushing the shoulder out. So we definitely need to have a little bit more. I think it's going to be the strap that's going to be problem at the moment. Let's see. Also, hello to Twitch as well. I am streaming at the same time on Twitch, but most of you seem to be over on YouTube. But if you are on Twitch, hello. I do have the chat open as well, so I can see anyone who chats, but I'm not allowed to cross-stream the chats because of Twitch. So let's just trim that down a little bit. Again, some things like this aren't always worth it in hindsight, but it's worth trying out. This is more of an experimentation just to see if this is possible. A little bit of adjustment isn't too bad, but if you want to do like a full-on regiment like this, it's not always practical. I could just remove the strap, actually. There's nothing saying that I need to keep it. The strap is nice, but it's not necessary. I do think... yeah, I think I might just need to lose the strap completely on this one. I think we are... yeah, let's go. Will, thank you for all you do. You got me back into the hobby. Thank you for your kit bashing. I mean, first of all, I'm sorry, because Warhammer's an expensive hobby at the best of times. And then when I'm sat here going, oh yeah, get these two kits and combine them to make one kit. There we go. You can see how much that's changed the position of the arm there. But yeah, I know that I'm completely responsible for making people enjoy a even more expensive side of the Warhammer hobby, so I do apologize for that. Which is why I do the dead animal bits. That's my penance for that. I try to make a kit which would help to offset the additional cost required to buy extra components and make it easier. Yeah, you can see we've still got some. This is the biggest problem with these kind of builds. When you've got a model which isn't designed to have arms across the chest, you can often get into these problems. So I'm just trying to find where the issues are now. I think it's going to be down here. You can see how high this belt is? It's very much intersecting. So this is the butt of the rifle, but I might remove it. I might trim that down, make it a little bit more slimline. Trim that down as well, just to clean it up a little bit. Right, how's that looking? That is... yeah, we're getting there. We're steadily getting there. We're steadily getting there. I feel like it's pushing it up. You can see how the arm's kind of... it should be a little bit down, but that could be this joint. I might need to adjust these joints a little bit just so that they kind of offset that and force the arm to be down more. Let's see how we are. Okay, so we're getting a lot closer now. You can see how if I actually attach the arms together, there is much more of a bond. I could probably get away with that if I really had to, but I'm going to trim down the shoulders a little bit more and then we can work from there. Stupid Media Productions. Nice to have company when building, just got in from a run, and now it's time to build 5 Raven Guard assault jackdaws. Love your videos, thanks for that, you're very much welcome. Do you ship the dead animal bits to Sweden? So at the moment, I don't personally ship them to Sweden. I ship to the US and I ship to the UK. The best place to get them from, if you order them direct from Wargames Atlantic, then I think they will ship locally, so I think they might ship via Sarissa. I am looking to get something set up, though, so that I can ship to Europe through Sarissa. Basically, there's a lot of weird VAT rules, which wasn't helped by Brexit, and it makes shipping to European countries quite difficult because you have to be VAT registered in the UK, and there's no point being VAT registered unless you earn over a certain amount of money, which I don't. And then so that means I can't register for the VAT scheme for the Europe. So I might just kind of ship them through someone else instead. But anyway, that's by the by. Hopefully, I will be shipping them through Europe eventually. But at the moment, if you go to Wargames Atlantic, you can pick them up from there. Right. Let's see. How are we looking? There's still a little bit in this elbow. I might need to just flare this elbow a little bit more. Just take out that inside. And again, the more I do on the inside here, the less it is noticeable on the outside of the model, and the less work it looks like I've done. And also, it means that I don't have to clean up as much then either. Cadian rustic style rifle suits it better than I expected. Great pick. Yeah, I think the rifles are actually really nice. I think they're not overly sci-fi. They could very easily be a bolt action rifle. Okay, you can see how the arm is not tilting up quite as much anymore. The more I make these adjustments, the less it's getting forced up that way, and the more it's able to be kind of like tight against the torso. It's not 100% there yet, but we are slowly getting closer. You can see there as well. So at the moment, I think the width is okay. I think it's this angle that's throwing us off. We need to pull this more in. And again, it's the chest. The chest pokes out an awful lot on this model. Right, how do we... Let's do a little bit more on the hand, just to make sure we're getting as much as we can out of that. Any chance you'll do Elysian stuff? I've had ideas for it. I've definitely had ideas. I've just never really got around to really sitting down and working out something. I think there's plenty of options now. I think between the Horus Heresy stuff that you've got and everything for the different factions that you've got 40k, you've got the Navy Breachers, the LBTs, the Cadians, Krieg, so many different options to choose from. So you've got lots of different choices for kitbashing human factions where you didn't quite have as many options before. But yeah, there's lots of choices. I think I just need to sit down and really work out how to do something. Especially with the Tempesta Scions with the jetpacks now. They'd be a very good base because they already have the jetpacks. Right. Yeah, it's kind of feeling like I'm getting there steadily, but we're still not quite there. Not quite there at all. So this is the problem. With these kind of things, you often get to the point where you think, maybe that idea isn't working, but do I cut my losses or do I continue? I think I'm going to continue. We're going to go a little bit further and see how we get. Again, if I have to cut down the center part of the torso, then that's that. We can deal with that. Let's see, we might have another option. Sprue goo may save us on this one. Let's see. What I might do is I might just do a little bit of a trim just here. Just enough that I don't really want to, because it's a really nice looking model. Lots of nice detail, so I don't want to remove too much. But needs must. Okay. I definitely got the right arm. Oh, no. I definitely got the right arms here. They do go together. If I put the arms together like that, you can see how for a normal Cadian torso they'd be perfect. But the Cadian torsos are really quite narrow if you compare them to other units. So part of me is tempted to try a Krieg arm because I think they are a little bit wider, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, tricky. It's getting closer, but every time I kind of make an adjustment, I feel like it doesn't. Yeah, we're still kind of having this angle upwards. It's let's try and trim the inside of the arm here a little bit as well, because that might help to fix things. It's a very slow iterative process, this kind of stuff is, and until you know exactly how much you need to remove, it's not always clear how worthwhile it is doing it. Once you've done a few of these, once you know how much you need to remove, and sometimes some arms are better than others because of the pose. But yeah, there's a very bulky chest here, which is causing the biggest issue. Yeah, we've got a massive gap there. Okay, let's shelve that idea for a second. And what other options do we have? I don't think this will work either, but it might do. Because, so, I've got the RBTs, guys. I think their arms are too big. I think they're just too bulky for that. So my thinking this is these torsos are quite big. You can see how the RBT's torsos are quite big, so the arms are going to be a little bit more pushed out. So these arms would probably work better, but I think the arms are just a little bit too big. I think things are, they might be okay. Let's clip away a couple and see how we get with them. They're also shotguns as well, which doesn't make quite as much sense, but right. So we've got 66. Let's try 58 and 57 because they're next to each other. We can see those. Not a great idea, but glue the arm to the gun array. So yeah, so the reason why I didn't want to do that, it is a good idea normally if you're building your models as standard. I would always recommend doing that. But the problem with these guys is that I will probably need to do some adjustment to the hand, maybe adjust the angle of the hand, so I don't want to glue it too much, but I'm going to try these just out of interest more than anything. And then if you decide to redo this build, and then you think, well, I want to give them shotguns, then. So yeah, even these have, they are much better. You can see how much closer that fit is, but even these aren't 100%. Actually, no, it's not. Yeah, there we go. They work. They work really, that kind of perfect, actually. Do we go with the shotgun arms instead? Okay, we've got a backup. That's the backup. Should we try it? We'll try and continue with the regular arms. I think this has more of a generic rifleman approach than where can we go from here? So I think the width is probably, let's get a torso up just so I can see as a comparison. So there's not much in the width. You can see there's the two together aren't too much. I think the biggest issue that I'm getting here is just how flat this kind of torso is compared to this. If you look how much kind of this pokes out, it's a very chunky torso. There's no full built torsos here that I compare directly to, but yeah, let's keep shaving. Let's keep going. We'll see how much we can do. Give them a little green stuff around the wrist, maybe some sort of tribal token. I think I can do it. I think what I might need to do is just break out the sprue goo. I think I've even labelled the pot now, just to make it clear as to what it is. If you don't know what this is, it's a very useful material. It is very much the kind of the band-aid. It's kind of like the duct tape of model making. It's not pretty, it's not elaborate, it's not technical in any way, shape or form, but it does the job, and sometimes that's all you can hope for. So this is basically just Tamiya extra thin with just bits of chopped up sprue stuck in it. And the great thing about this is it does actually give you a little bit of extra thickness. So if you ever need to adjust anything, you can almost... I am committing now. By doing this, I am very much committing to the arms. But I'm going to place this on here. You can see how thick it is when it's applied. I probably need a bit more glue in there. It's a little bit too thick. And then, when I attach the arms, it should give me a little bit more. So you can see how I can clean all this up afterwards. You can see how there's a slight gap there, and that is basically filled in by the sprue goo. So it effectively allows me to... Sorry, I'm going to sneeze. No, I'm not. Oh, excuse me. No, I don't even think the sprue goo is saving me at this point. Let's try getting the other arm. We'll try and... so here's a problem. Here's a problem that I've just spotted. I'll show you in a second. So, we're still quite a way out. I could potentially adjust this arm a little bit. Let's quickly do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm trying to get the arm to angle in. So I need to trim this way. Yeah, we're still not quite there in terms of the distance. It really is this center torso. Oh, I've got a runny nose now. It's hay fever season, or allergies, tree allergies if you're in the US. That's how it's referred to. Yeah, you see how much I have to kind of push away from the torso to get these arms to fit, which is not ideal. Oh, wow. I'm just gonna blow my nose for a second. Bear with me. I'm gonna put the pause screen on just so you don't have to listen to me do that. We're back. I'm not too bad at this time of year, but I don't know, I think it's been quite windy today, so I think pollen count's probably high. Okay, it's not terrible. It's not the worst, to be fair. It's better than I thought it would look. The sprue goo, you can see the shoulder is really off there. It's not ideal. I think it gives me a better idea of what I would need to trim down. You can see definitely this right side of the torso is poking out a little bit too much than we want it to. We want that to be cut down a bit more. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this off for the time being. We're going to just park that for the time being, and I'm just going to remove the glue and leave that to dry. We're going to try a different arm. I think I'm not going to use the one of these arms because that is cheating. I'm going to actually get a different... see what we've got here. Okay. So we've got this arm here that might work. 81. Do we have the corresponding arm? Or 91 won't work, actually. 91, 92. Yeah, let's try those. Let's give those a go. The torso's already slightly prepped anyway, so we can see. It at least gives us the idea of what we've got. So this particular gun has got the folding stock, so it's probably why the arm pose is a little bit more open. Glad you tried so I didn't waste money. To be honest, that's the biggest reason why I do a lot of these, because for me it is often worthwhile doing these kind of experiments, because hang on, that last one, because sometimes you don't always, it's not always clear. So yeah, even with this more open pose, it's better, it's certainly better, but we're still hitting those problems that we had before. Yeah, not really working as we wanted to, really. We can probably force it a bit more, but again, we're struggling with this. The torso is basically there's too much there around the stomach, I think. Just spitballing here, a few options off the top of my head. Scion, Solar Auxilia, Old Cadians, Palanite Enforcers. The Enforcers work fine. Yeah, they work. The Enforcers will probably work fine because they're quite big torso. The problems you're going to get with the Palanite Enforcers is they don't have full shoulders, if I remember rightly. They kind of tuck up underneath their armor. Scions, yes, probably would work because they've got more of like that armored chest. I don't think I've got any to hand though, actually. I might do, bear with me. Tempestus bits. I might not have any full arms in here. That's the only problem. I think they might just be leftovers, and also the arms are. Oh, that's off a vehicle. That's not an arm. They're all loose as well. So getting an arm which would work together is probably going to be quite tricky. Let's pull these out here and see what we've got. So here's one that actually never built. So you can see straight away that the way that the arms work here would actually be so much better because the torsos are much more rounded and they're probably more similar. Yeah, Scion arms would work well for this. I just don't think I've got any entire arms which I can definitely make a line. It's a shame, because that would actually be a good idea. But you know what? I'm quite tempted by the head options for these, though. I think it doesn't really fit Cathay, but I think is a general option. If you need to cut down the neck, but that would work. What are the helmeted heads like? Yeah, so the gas masks don't really work for these particular things. So, yeah. Arms would work well, but I just don't have any that I can use easily. Put all these away now. Okay, so we've always got the RBCs. The RBCs can always save us if we need to. Castle Rock 13. What about naval borders? Let me just check the instructions for those. Yeah, so I think these have the same issue as a Palanite, because if you look at their arms and the way their arms load up, they're kind of part of the torso itself. So you can see that the torso has got the shoulders in, and then you attach almost. They don't have full shoulders, if you can see, so these won't work either. Let's try Solar Auxilia. We'll give those a go. let's. We need a pile of shame tour one day office tour. To be honest, there's actually not most of it isn't in my office. Most of it's in the garage, and then some of it's in a cupboard at the top of the stairs. But yeah, there's a lot of it. So what I'm hoping with these guys, because if you look at the torsos, these are the last rifle section, I think they're called. That's their official name. Solar Auxilia, last rifle section. Yeah, so these, if you look at these guys, these have got slightly longer arms, if you can see, because they have to work around this armoured section of the chest there. So, fingers crossed, we might be able to get something working out of here. And I like these kind of last rifles as well. It's kind of almost an antique look. Okay, so let's grab one of these. We're going to give ourselves the biggest favour. We're going to go for 24 and 23 if we can find them. 24, and we've got 24. Do we have 23? 24. I can't see it. It's probably not on the sprue. It's going to be one of those. Actually, no, these are fairly self-contained. Where is it? I feel like I can. Oh, there. That's 23. It's behind the plastic injection molding input, so it's just a little 2 there. So it's this number here, right? 20. So yeah, if you're ever looking for number 23 on the last rifle section sprue, it's possibly behind there. And this one is 20. Hang on, that's not right. Oh yeah, 24, 23. That doesn't look right. It looks more held up than I suspected. Okay, we'll see. Hopefully I've not bodged this up, but we'll see. Right, moment of truth. Moment of truth. So, okay. So far, so good. So far, yes, there we go. Okay, perfect. So, a little bit of adjustment needed. Ever so tiny little bit of adjustment, but nowhere near as much as what we needed with the Cadian arms. So, yeah. Basically, if you ever need to do these, get some last rifle section and use those arms. And I actually think we're going to have a slight, quick break on Firefox. We haven't had one yet. And I need to blow my nose again, so I do apologise for that. So whilst I get that set up, I'm just going to quickly switch to the pause screen, so bear with me 1 second. Right, we're back. Okay, so I actually think that this is beneficial because I think that last rifle section is man for man cheaper than Astra Militarum. So let's see. Horus Heresy, let's open that in a... What was the... No. Is that... Hang on. Why can't I see it? Oh, Forces of the Emperor. There we go. Solar Auxilia. Oh, I need to actually open these in a separate tab. Okay, we'll remember. So, last rifle section. It's £47 and you get 20. So, what's that? £2 something a model? So, we look at Cadians. Armies of the Imperium. Astra Militarum. Oh, I've done it again. There we go. Astra Militarum and a regular squad of Cadian shock troops. Yeah. So they're closest to like £3 a model. These are £2 a model. So if you yeah, it's actually it is better that those do that. Actually you could even no you can't. It's still cheaper to get the last rifle. So let's finish this off. Okay, right. Let's kind of get this. Let's get this going because I feel like I've spent how long on this now? An hour. An absolute hour of just comparing arms. So there is definitely a little bit of adjustment there that I need, but that's not too bad. I'm just going to trim these down a little bit. Teeny tiny bit there, like so. And then we're going to so because these are fitting a lot better, I think I'm going to just take the early advice that the chat gave to me. And actually, you know what? I'm not going to do that, because the good thing about these... So if you look at the cuffs on these arms, they're very much just a flat panel. They don't have like an indentation, so it kind of gives you a little bit more leeway as to where you attach the hands. So let's see. Let's give it a dry fit first, and then we'll see. This is the kind of thing that you don't really see much of behind this, like when you're watching a video, because all this kind of stuff is done off camera. So there's still a little bit of adjustment that needs to be done there. I can probably, yeah, I can see where the problem is. It's this little bit here. You can see this little step. Just about to see the step there, if I get the focus right. Yeah, you can see where it steps out. We're just going to remove that, smooth that out. Barely noticeable on the actual model, and it should make positioning the arm much easier. Should being the operative word there. Okay. Yeah, so we're getting closer and closer to that. You can see how much more closer it is with just like one tiny adjustment. Probably going to cut this in a little bit more just to make sure that there is plenty of space between those two pieces. These arms are also quite armoured as well, which nicely fits in to the theme. Okay, I think I'm just going to send that now. We're just going to do some. We're just going to get the glue on there, and we're going to see how it looks, because otherwise we're going to forever just be tweaking, and then we'll have no actual model left to glue, because it'll all be trimmed away. Oops. Okay, not perfect, but not bad. Not bad. We could probably adjust that more and get a perfect fit, but for the time being, I think I'm quite happy with that setup, actually. That looks quite nice. Yeah, not too bad. You can see there's a gap there. It's not a problem. This is more of a prototype, and that allows me to completely mess up and have a perfectly valid excuse. It's just a prototype. It doesn't matter if it doesn't work. It's just a mock-up. We're just testing the idea. Right, okay. So, in an hour and 10 minutes, we have learned that the Solar Auxilia arms work a lot better on these torsos than the Cadian arms do. So, that's good to know. It's good to know. We also have the little armor plates that you can add to these guys as well, so we can always add some of those over the top. I think they look quite nice. I'm just going to leave these just to kind of harden up the glue a bit more, because I want to make sure that everything is locked in place before I do any more. And we now have the joy of picking out a head. So we'll see how that goes. Will you do a video on these as well? I might do. If it kind of comes out okay, I might do a more focused video, which will be quite a quick one. I think just because of the nature of these live streams, obviously are good for a bit more kind of interaction, but to do something very succinctly, it very rarely goes very smoothly, because most of the kit bashes that I do, I will be doing lots of adjustments, and I cut all that out because it's not much fun to watch. Sometimes I'll make mistakes, or I think an idea will work, and there's no point showing you that the idea didn't work because it's not relevant. It's only worth showing you the ideas that did. So when you watch these streams, you actually see more of how the process works. There is a little bit behind the scenes where I kind of, I've got a really runny nose this evening. I do apologize, folks. Kind of behind the scenes, you don't really see this side of the kit bashing as much. You see the nice polished video that's only 15 minutes for the whole build, whereas it took a long time to actually get everything there. On Twitch, unknown host 222, do you know of any good thick shoulder pads that could be used for Ferrous Manus Lion kit bash? Yeah, I think a good set of shoulder pads that you could use are, I think the Centaurian shoulder pads might work. So the shoulder pads that you get on the Centaurian guys, they might be big enough, if I am not mistaken. Oh, let's quickly, so you can see how chunky these shoulder pads are. The only thing you need to do is probably remove these, which I did on my Fulgrim kit bash, where I made a Demon Corrupted Vulcan. Let's go on mini compare. Let's have a quick look at how they look. So, did you say the lion? Yeah, okay. So let's get the lion up on here. And we need the plastic one. We're going to get that one. And we're going to get a Centaurian. I would imagine these would work quite nicely in terms of scale. So yeah, I think those would work quite nicely if you wanted a big chunky shoulder pad for a Ferrous Manus conversion. I'm just going to take myself off there. Can I get rid of myself? No. I'm going to have to do it manually. There. So you can see the sizes between the two. You can probably quite easily use those shoulder pads on the model. They scale quite nicely. Cool. Conversion is looking great. How long is the barrel of the cannon, and what is the diameter? Manzak Minis, very very nice to have you on stream. So you're thinking the big cannon. Let's have a look. So I've not built it yet. So this is the cannon sprue. I've not had a full look. So bear with me. It is really nice. I really like how the dragon heads are separate, because that's going to be such a useful component. I really want to use this on a different build, but I don't know what to use it for there. But you get obviously the two halves. The ogre that you get in this is really cool as well. So what's the best way of doing this? So the cannon obviously it's actually the cannon itself is not huge. I think this gets attached to this little section down here. I'll get the instructions so we can double check all that. So I can measure that for you if you want. Let me double check the instructions, but I've not built it yet. So okay, so it takes 3 different sections there. You can see it's all 3 of those sections. So I don't have a particularly super accurate way of doing it, but I'll get it for you. So we need it is 15 and 16. Yep. Okay, so if we measure all of these, I'm going to do it in centimeters because that's easy. So we're looking about 2 centimeters, 1.5 centimeters, so 3.5 centimeters, another 2 centimeters, so 5.5 centimeters plus the round thing on the end, which is another 0.5 centimeters. So let's say 5 centimeters. I'd say that for the whole length of the cannon, it's probably about. No, my math is not math then. 2 centimeters. 1.5 centimeters. 3.5 centimeters. 5.5 centimeters. 6 centimeters. There we go. And then width of the opening is, again, it's hard because I've not assembled this, but I think we're looking at probably about exactly 1 and a half, yeah, 1.5 centimeters actually for the opening on the barrel. So yeah, 5 centimeters long, 1.5 opening on the opening. Hope that helps. Dragonhead would be good on a Carcharodon ship. Yes, it would be. Dragonhead cannon poking out of a basilisk, very cool, and a Baneblade. Yeah, I think these would work really nicely. Right. Okay, let's try and figure out a head. I think that's going to be the biggest problem that we're going to face next. Whilst I have them, let's use the. Let's try one of the Tempest Assigns head, just not Tempest Assigns, the Solar Auxilia heads, because whilst we have one, we might as well have a look and see how it appears. Okay, so first of all, much too big, as you can see. It kind of it's a little bit too high, I think. Let me just sort out the focus there. Yeah, doesn't work. You'd have to cut down the pipes probably to get that working, but not a bad option. The neck looks very long, and the head needs to sit a lot lower in there. So yeah, that's out of the question. Thank you. You've already been building an Araby Dardanelles gun out of an Ogre Iron Blaster, so looking for something bigger, even if I need two. You know what? I actually do have. I just realised I'm not on the camera's not there. Let me have a look. 1 second. It's the Necrofex Colossus. So this is the Iron Blaster cannon. So this is we can measure this on here. So I think if you're looking at the kind of, this is definitely bigger than the one that we get in the kit, but I think the advantage of the other one over this is the fact that, like you said, you might need to be able to, if you need to get two, but if I show this again, because these are in sections, you can probably just build up the sections. So if you get two, you can easily double the kind of the length of that quite easily. It's a bigger cannon opening though, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, so the opening is bigger. Yeah, definitely bigger. But yeah, I think in terms of actual length, you would probably need to get two of these in order to exceed the length of that one. Just realised how good these guys would look for Iron Sultanate from Trench Crusade. Yeah, actually, I did see someone who had done I don't know if it was an official art or if it was just like a mock-up, but it was basically a kind of Chinese-inspired Trench Crusade stuff, which looked pretty cool. But yeah, so I think in terms of the head, we'll maybe try and... So I think these guys is probably just looking a bit too tall. We do need the shoulder pads from that kit for the time being, so we'll keep that. I think the biggest problem we're going to get is with the width of the head. A lot of these heads are quite big, so let's try an RBT's helmet whilst we're here, just to see. So, not a bad fit, to be fair. We've definitely got a... If we adjust the neck, that could probably fit quite nicely. I do need to build up the shoulders a bit, which will help. But yeah, it'd probably need to fit more like that, which is interesting, but we'll see. Let's try a regular Cadian helmet, because these guys are I've got quite skinny heads. Right, let's try this one. Yeah, let's go for that one. Is that all collar? Yes, it is. It is a big old collar. Okay, so these actually don't look too bad. The neck is definitely too tall, so we need to trim that down. So let's trim that down a little bit and see how we get on. There is a little bit of neck in there already, so we don't need too much. Just a quick clip. Okay, not too bad. Not too bad. A little bit more trimming, but I think that would work quite nicely. Do you have any Atalan Rough Rider heads? I do actually have some. They will be in here somewhere. Whereabouts, though? That's the main thing. I actually think the Imperial Breacher heads would work really well, because you can see how narrow those heads are. They would work really nicely in there. Okay, let's quickly try to find an Atalan Rough Rider head. Definitely have some in here. I just can't remember where they are exactly, so bear with me. There is part of a head on there, but the rest of the head is not on there. Okay, for some reason I have one part of an Atalan Rough Rider sprue in here, but not the rest of it, so where's that gone? That's going to bug me now. I have one single part of it, and I don't. So the only problem with the, I can use this to demonstrate. So my problem that I'm thinking is, because the collar is so high, my worry is that as soon as you start putting this kind of fur-lined brim on, it's going to kind of look like he's just kind of it's going to look fairly close to that. Do you see what I mean? I think it's going to look. I don't know. It's not a bad idea. It's not a bad suggestion, but I would like. Aquilon's doesn't work either. I tried the Scion's heads, which I think are about the same size, but yeah. I think I'm going to go for the Cadian helmet. It's quite narrow. It does mean that I get to use some Cadian parts after all, because I didn't get to use them straight away. Still a bit high. Definitely needs trimming down a bit more. You can see how high the neck is inside there, so we're really going to need to kind of fight against that. Skitarii Vanguard, yeah, I think Skitarii heads would probably work well as well. Not necessarily for what I'm going for here. I think I definitely want to keep the more human aspect, but for other conversions, there are definitely lots of options. A little bit more trimming. Ragnar the Blow on Twitch says looks like a pot lid. Yeah, definitely. It kind of looks like some sort of children's toy that you kind of press down and it just pops up after some. Oh. So that just disappeared and it fell into one of the boxes with got sprues in. So I'm gonna have to start. I'm gonna have to get another head and start again. That's frustrating. Jeez. Right, so let's get a different head then. Let's choose this one. Let's try that one head. Talon heads could look nice, but unfortunately they don't do any, do they? It's all very much, you've got to make your own. Night Solaire on Twitch. I forgot. I didn't see your message there. You could lay the bigger plate onto the other shoulder and make it extra bulky. Yes, I think that's quite a nice. I do like that aesthetic. A few models have got those kind of bulky shoulder pads where they've got almost like two segments. Okay, I've probably over. I've cut down the neck a little bit too. Okay, probably a bit too much there. Okay, there's a character from. There's a character. Let me see if I can find. I'm not going to switch it over yet because I want to see if I can find the character. Okay. So. Okay, so if you grew up in the UK, you will probably be familiar with a kind of a cartoon strip. You're going to have to probably be around my age. I think it still goes, but it's probably more popular from people my age and younger and older. Sorry. So for the Beano, had a segment in there called the Bash Street Kids, and there was a few different characters in there. And one of the characters looks exactly like what we're looking at here. And this is this particular Wilfred guy. I'm just kind of, I want to see that. I want to get this up on the screen. Let's get table of face. Let's save this image so I can get this. Of course, it's a WebP image. Let's do a cropping tool. Okay, let's add a image. Let's find it. Okay. Okay. Now we've got him on. Now we've got him on the screen. So let's put the head back. Yeah, I think the head works fine. I think I've just cut too much of the neck away, and it's just kind of disappeared into the collar. It's got like a good kind of like winterized vibe, or maybe like a Hurt Locker armored suit. But yeah, not bad. Right, I'm not going to do a third one. "28 and I know what you mean." Okay, I don't feel too old then. I'm 34, so yeah. I'm glad that there's people who are a bit younger than me that still know what it was. I maybe thought that I was probably among the last generation that remembered Bash Street Kids, but I think they still sell the kind of the magazines. Not too bad actually. Let's commit. Let's commit to the bit. How much face is visible with a Cathay head? Good question. Probably more than that, but let's have a look anyway. I mean, there's nothing wrong with using the original heads. So you can see how it kind of fits. It kind of almost fits a little bit further forward as well. So I'd say you're looking at the nose probably there. You know what? It's probably about the same. Yeah. If I kind of add a little bit more. Okay, let's go for it. Let's do it. Let's rely on the sprue goo to save us in my time of need. It's rough, but it'll do for now. Okay, pop that in there. So this is Wilfred, member of the White Scars chapter Serfs. We're going to add some shoulder pads on there because I think at the moment the neck is looking a lot more elongated because we are missing those shoulder pads. So let's add those on, and hopefully that'll balance things out a little bit for us. So. I can even attach them kind of coming from the neck armor as well, which helps to blend helps to blend the arms into the torso a little bit more because it's almost like the less stuck on. Yeah, you can see the slope does help to blend the two parts together a little bit more, makes it a little bit less of a... makes someone look a bit more bulky than just having a big collar, if anything. I definitely think we're going to go for the top knot, though. I think a few people have suggested the top knot, and I think that's definitely a good idea for keeping that White Scars aesthetic going. We've got nice space on the top there. Okay, let's stick that on and see how we go. Right, we need the Cathay sprue, which is somewhere. Make sure I put that back in the right place. Top knots. So yeah, this is another great reason. This is just having access to kind of plentiful separate top knots is really cool. Just because there's lots of different factions that use them. You've got Thousand Sons. No. Emperor's Children. Emperor's Children, pretty much most Chaos factions in some way, shape or form seem to have them. You've obviously got the White Scars, you can use them on there as well. Okay. Yeah, I'm quite liking that. Looks pretty good. Let's give it a base, just so we've got some sort of... we've got some bases here. Stick him on a round base, make sure he's firmly in the 40k universe. Top knot pulls it together. Yeah, I agree. The top knot is doing a lot of the lifting here. I think it's one of those strange ones where you almost need parts to blend. I think the shoulder pads do a lot as well. I think the shoulder pads kind of de-emphasize how high the collar is. And I think if you look at the original, whilst that's drying there, I'm just going to leave that to one side just so I can kind of illustrate my point. If you look at the original models, you can see that the shoulder pads are quite bulky, especially the unit leaders. But even the rank and file have quite substantial shoulder pads, which do help to alleviate that collar appearance. So it doesn't look quite as big as it did initially. So yeah, the shields are very cool. I would like to incorporate the shields in some way. I'm not sure how I would go about that. The good thing about these, though, the fact that these Solar Auxilia arms work nicely, is that it basically means that anything which is designed to work with these can work with them. Hang on. Anything that's designed to work with the Solar Auxilia can work with these. So I wonder if the Planetary that have the big axes and stuff could work as well. So if you wanted some kind of close combat units, you could go for those as well. But yeah, I'm quite happy with that, actually. I think we can probably get a few more extra sci-fi bits. There's a little bit of a pouch missing from there. If there's a sword section that we can use on that, then that would be pretty cool. I think they all... Yeah, let's go for one of these. Let's see if I can attach one of these swords, because if I can... I think that would really do a lot to tie them all together. I don't know if this is the right one. I don't know if this is meant to go there, but there's quite a few different sword options on the kit. You can see that these kind of... I'm guessing these are more for the units which have the halberds. Perfect. That works really well. Okay, might not be the exact component that's supposed to go for this torso, but it does fit, so we'll see. So yeah, I think I'm actually quite happy with that. I think it's not too... There's a lot of going back and forth in terms of getting it right for me, so I could do this properly, because I was kind of initially set on using the Cadian arms, but I think as soon as I kind of figured out that these Solar Auxilia arms work well, then that's kind of given me the momentum. The Cadian heads work really well on the collar. They're just narrow enough to sit nicely in there. You need to cut them down a little bit. The top knot, again, it's not super neat, but ignore the kind of the roughness of the conversion. This is very much a prototype phase. If I was doing this for a video, it would be a lot more refined, I suppose is the word. Shields will look good in the vehicles. They would look very good on the vehicles. I would actually think that they would work very well on like a Sentinel or something like that. But yeah, there's some really cool stuff from the range. I've only had the box. It's the army box, so I don't really know. I haven't got first-hand experience with any of the extra stuff. So let's go back to the main page. But to be honest, you've got cavalry in there, so if you wanted Rough Riders represented, you could do. Obviously, the dragons are probably a little bit more tricky to find a use for, but definitely the leader units would work well. Solar Auxilia, proxy, Battle Standard Bearer. Again, you can use. Yeah, so I think in general, I really like how well they've come out. To be fair, it was one of those things where I knew there would be some way of getting it to work, but yeah, I'm quite happy with the result. Maybe add a few more pouches on there, 40k pouches, some grenades, just to give it that finished aesthetic. But I think, yeah, quite happy. Touch more sci-fi. Yeah, I mean, we can probably go for... There's a lot of options that we can add on there. I mean, to be fair, the actual Astra Militarum kit, if you look at it, a regular guy, I mean, I've got one here. If you look at this guy, there's not really much on there. I mean, the only thing he's got a few pouches, there's grenades and a rifle. Apart from the grenade and the rifle, there's nothing there which is not something you wouldn't have seen like post World War II. I mean, the flak armor is maybe, but there were kind of prototypes of armor back then. But yeah, we could maybe get a little bit more of something from the Solar Auxilia kit though. Whilst we're already in there, so what do we have? We have these little grenade pouches, which are quite nice. We can probably fit one of those in there quite easily. You could even remove the sword and just have the pouches there if you didn't want the sword. I also think with this kind of thing, you can do a lot by having just one model in a unit, which has... if you just have one model in a unit which has a Voxcaster, that can kind of do a lot to sell a sci-fi aesthetic, or like a flamer weapon or something which is a bit more obviously sci-fi. But I think the strength of the Astra Militarum is the fact that it is a little bit more mundane, I guess. Let's have some grenades, though. I do agree it does need some more modern weaponry. At the moment, he kind of looks like he's got a flintlock. Once it's painted up as well, you also see the pipe work on the arms a little bit more clearly. But yeah, let's stick the grenade pouches on there just to bulk the guy out a little bit. Resident Lemon misloads the stream because of volleyball. Well, obviously volleyball is more important than kitbashing Cathay models. That's obviously what the decision was. No, if you missed it, there's going to be the VOD will be online after the stream ends. So if you want to go back and kind of catch up where we were, but to be fair, a lot of it was me really struggling to get some Astra Militarum arms to fit, and they just wouldn't. So you didn't really miss an awful lot, to be fair. Most of it came together towards the end. So yeah. Yeah. Overall, quite happy actually. I think it's kind of come together how I had it in my head roughly. I didn't know exactly how I was going to get there, but yeah, mostly old world components with a few extra 40k components in there, at least just given the weapon options. But I think as on a battlefield, I think that would actually stand out quite nicely, and as someone mentioned, that would work really nicely as some of the Trench Crusade miniatures, the Sultanate. Maybe add the charge packs to the life rifles that make them look a bit more bulky too. Yeah, because they have these kind of almost kind of 6-shooter cylinder cartridges, don't they, on there? So yeah, no, quite happy with that. I think if we painted it up as well, that'd make a big difference. But I quite like seeing that 40k aesthetic where you have this mixture of sci-fi and regular non-sci-fi stuff as well. So I do quite like the fact that the old world stuff does work very well with the new stuff. Where's that? I'm trying to find out there. Put that there just so I don't have to keep it on camera. Let's move this down a little bit as well. There we go. I don't have to keep holding it up then. We can get the focus right. There we go. Okay. Yeah, so to sum up, Cathay Jade Warriors as the basis of the model, obviously. We have some Solar Auxilia last rifles and shoulder pads there. There is a Cadian head. The equipment in the top knot are from the Jade Warrior kit, and also the grenades are from the Solar Auxilia. So really, in terms of an actual achievability, it's quite a straightforward kit bash. The arms needed a little bit of tweaking, but nothing as much as what the Cadian arms would use. Solar Auxilia are also cheaper per man than Cadians as well, so I think if you wanted to really commit on doing a larger force of these, you could really do it. You could feasibly manage it. They do look a little bit like Wilfred up there, but yeah, no, I quite like them. I quite like the effect. But yeah, yeah, I think, to be honest, I think that's kind of brings us nicely to the end of the stream. Really, we did what we set out to do. It's a White Scars chapter serf, someone you could imagine would be fighting with the White Scars. There's lots of materials in this range. So if you ever are looking to do White Scars, then really do check out these. If I just to kind of prove the point, let's just grab one of my White Scars. So back when I used to do the Horus Heresy different legions videos, and I didn't get very far. This is my White Scars guy. If I'd have had the shields for this, they would have been fantastic. The shields would have been amazing. These are the Jade The Jade Lancer's shields would have been really good. Even the Jade Warrior shields would have worked nicely. They're a little bit small, but they kind of work nicely as like a buckler. You could even do that use that something along the lines of a vehicle decoration, as someone mentioned. But yeah, even just the pouches are quite cool. They would work nicely with your... In fact, I think the gourd, if I'm not mistaken, let me just double check, because I feel like I might have even seen that on a... White Scar's character before. Loyalist. White Scars, I could be making things up, but I feel like I might have seen it on one of them. Maybe not. Maybe I'm imagining it. But yeah. In summation, Grand Cathay, really nice kits. If you are looking to do Old World, perfect. If you're looking to do Age of Sigmar and proxy them out as a... I can do a better comparison now. Proxy them out as some Cities of Sigmar, you could do that. They're a tad smaller though, that's the only thing. But in terms of weapon options, I think you'd be fine. They work really well as steel helms. And then obviously 40k, you can use them as a regiment or chapter serfs or whatever you really fancy. So yeah. Transfer sheet for this range is activating my Alpha Legion sleeper cell code word. I haven't actually seen the... I'm not going to properly look at the transfers, but yeah. You can definitely, again, yeah, even these would be really, really good for White Scars. These red bandings and symbols would be very, 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 very cool for White Scars. So yeah, generally speaking, if you're a 40k player and you've got these, you've effectively got your own little... that's pretty cool. I like that. You should be able to like cut that out and use that as a transfer itself, if I'm not mistaken. If they've printed it right, yeah. So they've actually printed that as a transfer. So if you ever want a really cool little transfer to go on something, you've got one there. But yeah, thank you very much to everyone who has tuned in for this live stream and seeing what we've built on this video. It's a White Scars chapter surf. This video will be going up on the VOD. I will be doing another live stream next Wednesday. I think I've got something in mind for that one. It might be Raptors, we'll see. But yeah, thank you very much for everyone who has joined the stream, commented. Really appreciate it. And yes, if you are a channel member or a Patreon member, there should be a preview of the next video going. It will only be like a half work in progress video, but you'll get an earlier access. And yeah, until next time, have a great week. Enjoy yourself. Happy kitbashing, and thanks for watching. Goodbye.